Are you ready to learn the difference of working with an agency versus if you hire your own freelancer? In this video, I'm going to break down the common differences and also honestly a little bit the pros and the cons of both sides. As someone who does run a virtual assistant agency here in the Philippines, I understand the kind of back and forth that you might have of like, hey, should I just do this myself or should I work with an agency? Now, when I did start 𝐾𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐝, it came from someone who said, I love your course, I love what you're teaching, I don't want to do it myself. That is essentially how the whole company was born. So I do want to break it down. If you're still a little bit on the fence, if you should go to a freelancer or if you should hire an agency, how to decide between the two. And this is not just about 𝐾𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐝, this is also for any other company that you might be considering at the moment. Now, when it comes to working with an agency, there is a better structure. And to be honest, that is kind of the biggest sell when you're working with an agency versus for a freelancer, is most of the time, most agencies can give you a structure of what are the best practices already, versus when you're working with a freelancer, you kind of have to figure it out a little bit on your own. So for example, within 𝐾𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐝, we have a 90-day onboarding program to kind of make sure that our client and their EA are set up in the best way. We have different systems that we have installed basically into the way that they do things, so then it's easy for them to kind of keep rolling, versus if you were working with a freelancer, again, you have to kind of figure it out on your own. So that's kind of the major ones, is just structure for it. Most agencies will have something in place of a normal kind of just a delivery pipeline of how to make sure that they give you the best service as best as they can. Next is when you're working with an agency is you get to skip the hiring. What this means is most of the time, and this is true for us, is you might have to kiss 100 frogs before you get your prince. What that means is when you're recruiting and you're hiring, when you're doing it on your own, you will have to make mistakes. You will have to maybe hire the wrong person or two, or you might have to go through people who are spamming hiring managers, people who are not really for you, and you might have to really go through a little bit of the recruitment process for a longer period of time, because then while you're doing that, you're also still learning your business, versus for an agency, they will usually have a recruitment team or a company that they work with to be able to get these people in. They would be already filtered. Sometimes they might already trained basically to just get themselves started. So depending on your own needs as well, if you do have time to hire, or if this is more of I don't want to worry about it, I want someone else to just give me, the top 3 candidates, then going with an agency might be an easier bet. Next is there is ongoing management when it comes to working with an agency. So unlike if you were working with a freelancer where you had to directly manage them, usually with agencies is you already have a assigned person that you go back and forth with, that anytime that you have a feedback, something that you want to add to the freelancer or see the freelancer improve in some way, then it's a little bit easier on that end. And on the other side as well, they usually have training in place for growth purposes. They have different courses, or they might have mentors they have in place for the freelancers, or at least for us executive assistants, to be able to do. So whatever that looks like for different agencies, that's kind of the main one, is you're not just paying or working directly with a person basically for your business, you're also working with their managers or making sure that they're taken care of. So then all you have to really think about is going to be their output and what they need from you to be able to create that output. And one of the biggest ones that most people don't see when it comes to working with an agency versus just working with a freelancer is usually there are other services involved in it. So beyond the tasks that you need a person to do, usually an agency will have things running behind the scenes to make sure that things are going to keep running smoothly between you and the freelancer. As a really good example, instead of 𝐾𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐝, we're not just recruiting your executive assistant. A lot of our own focus is to help you streamline your operation. We have something called the business operating systems within 𝐾𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐝. We have something called your SOP roadmap. So we have different things in place, again, best practices that we've seen where a lot of other clients kind of not really do well at, or a lot of EAs actually need, but they don't know how to voice it out with their client. They've kind of put in place. So beyond just having the person, we're also working in different ways to be able to make sure that our client's business actually keeps running, because of course then that supports us. However, on the flip side, if you're hiring a freelancer, they do get to be more part of your team, versus like if you're working with an agency, of course that person is the agency's employee versus your employee. So when it comes to kind of growing a little bit of that culture, a little bit of that growth, the EA still has loyalty essentially to that agency. Doesn't mean that they won't have loyalty to you, but these are things that I know a lot of people have been concerned about or have thought over when it comes to them kind of further scaling, is they do want to have their assistant a little bit more in-house. We have different options in that within 𝐾𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐝, but essentially I know that is one of the things to think about. Next is freelancers can be more specialized versus if you're working with an agency. Again, depending on the agency, they might be a marketing agency, sales agency, where that's their only thing. You can have like, hey, I really want someone who is focused on my LinkedIn and Instagram. That's it. That's my freelancer person who's going to handle and basically work on that. So that's kind of one of the ways that it's still kind of better to work with a freelancer, is you can be as specialized as you need it to be. Next is typically freelancers are self-managed. A lot of the time what that means, if they need to grow themselves or study or do other things, they're able to do that themselves. However, of course, on the downside, that means that you are going to be directly managing this person and making sure they actually get things done. But again, most of the time, if they are an experienced freelancer, they're able to get that work done anyway. And finally, with a freelancer, you can have a better option of finding someone who is more short-term based or project based versus if you're working with an agency. Like a lot of the time they will need like 6 months to a year kind of contract or setup, but if you just want something fast, it might be better for you to just go ahead and work with a freelancer that way. Now, there isn't really a right or wrong thing when it comes to this decision. It really depends on where your business is at and where you want to see it grow into or go into. So depending on if you are considering if hiring an agency or if you want to hire a freelancer, comment below if you guys have any questions. Of course, hit that like button right there. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!